Since Spacies.
G'day invaders and welcome to Since Spacies, and this is, yes, another bloody gaming podcast, and this is number 5. Oh my god, I can't believe we made it past even 2. And I'm joined by 6 awesome guys, all from all around the world on the one network, which is YouTube. They all have YouTube channels of various types, but there's one thing that unites us all, and it is gaming. So really cool that these guys have taken the time to join me. Also, for the first time, you can't hear it now, you guys, but I will be having music running over the top. Oh, that's a little bit too jazzy. We might, ramp it up with something more hardcore. There we go. All right. I also want to thank the subscribers. There's been a big jump in my numbers lately, so that hasn't gone by unnoticed. So a big thank you to all my invaders. And I also want to put a big special mention for Mikey Redfield on Twitter. He has been very vocal in getting those numbers up, so I think that's got something to do with him. But enough about me. I'm going to now throw it over to, we have Ash from 891.
Hi.
You did that last time. Hi.
Do I? Oh, creepy intros are the best.
And we've got Ben from Grumpy Retro Gamers. Love to get joined by Chris one time. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe next time, if there will be a next time, if you have us back.
And we've got Chunt, Uncle Chunt. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine. The one and only. There's only enough room on this planet for one of me.
We're all chunted out. Okay. I have so much fun with that name.
Good. Everyone should.
And we have Conrad from Carbonites Gaming. How are you?
I'm great. How is everyone else? I guess I already asked that, didn't you?
I was waiting for a response. It was delayed. Also, is that Mark? Sorry, from Maz Gaming. Mark?
Yes, Mark. Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Yeah, big thank you for that video. My ego just went. And I was, for those who don't know, I won the Small YouTubers Award for 2017 on Maz Gaming's channel. And I was watching that video with my parents in the lounge room and not knowing what was happening with that video. And towards the end, I was thinking, I didn't get a mention. and then the big award came along. Also, we've got the Bitvault, and we've got John there in Bitvault. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. And John's actually a patron of my channel, so a big special thank you for being on board with that. A little bit of a plug if you want to join. It's patreon.com/Since Spacies. Had to get it in there. Anyway,
shameless Brian Sheep.
So we're going to throw it over to Maz Gaming. All the other guys here have answered the intro questions for the first time when they were on last. So we have the 3 questions. Oh my god, I haven't got them written down. The first one is your first gaming console and the first game you played on it. That's right.
Yeah, so I kind of got 2 answers for this, technically, because the way it kind of works in my family was whenever one of my cousins kind of got bored with their really old consoles, they just chuck it my way for a long time. So nice. I technically had a Commodore 64, but even as a kid, I looked at that as just like an absolute piece of garbage. So I apologise now because I know people really love. But basically, so I was the kind of person who was like sat there watching my cousins play Mega Drives and Nintendo, and everything else, and they just kind of gave me that. So I was kind of like, oh, thanks. So I did have a Commodore 64 that I didn't really touch, and I kind of regret that now because I appreciate it a lot more now. I'm a little bit older and a little bit wiser. But in reality, it was probably the Sega Mega Drive that was again another hand-me-down when they kind of got bored and started kind of probably found girls and decided to forget gaming for a little while. So that was so that was it for me. And the first game I ever played was actually Sonic 2, which for me is the best Sonic.
Jesus, you make me feel bloody old. Because I was working at Sega when that was being launched. Alright, so your favourite game of all time?
Wow.
Yeah, no pressure. Just
Yeah,
one.
yeah, no pressure at all.
Just
yeah.
one.
You know what? It's again, it's another Mega Drive game actually, and it's Shining Force 2. If anyone's played that game.
I knew we'd get a bit of a reaction there from Carbonites. Yes.
Of all the games that I played ever, it's probably the only game that I could, even though I've completed it 50 times, I could still like put it back in tonight and play it right through and not get bored at any point. There's never a bit where I'm like, oh, I kind of wish that this had hurry up. I really genuinely love that game. It's kind of the nostalgia factor for me. It's probably the only RPG I had on the Mega Drive for a long, long time. So I just played it to death.
I love the music in that one too. The presentation.
Oh yes,
it's just done really well. And what are you currently playing? What's keeping Maz Gaming occupied besides YouTube?
I got a Switch a few months ago, and then just to kind of make sure that I can actually play my Switch, I got my girlfriend a Switch as well, just to keep her distracted with the Switch while I play the Switch.
Switchception.
Genius.
I think that's sexist.
No, not at all. Because we were basically both playing online, so it was like, we can kind of both kind of do our own thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she got Stardew Valley, and I was totally, I'm more into the other games, and then just kind of watched her for a little bit, and now I'm kind of obsessed with Stardew Valley. So
Okay.
yeah, plowed about 28 hours into just like planting crops and just smashing stones up. So that probably says a lot about me at the moment.
How far in the dungeons in that are you?
You know what? I'm not that far because I work like mega long hours, so like, I probably get about an hour and a half every night on it, like at best on the Switch. So I was like, there was a point where I was way ahead of the missus, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm on like dungeon level 20, and now she's on like dungeon level 500, and just like she's like on year 48 on like the farmer's like nearly dead, and his grandkids are taking over. It's ridiculous. So.
John at the Bit Vault, same questions for yourself, given that this is your first time on, your very first gaming console, and what game did you have for that first?
My first gaming console that I actually owned was an NES. I got it when I was 4 for Christmas, and of course we had Mario, Duck Hunt, whatever, but we also got Snake Rattle and Roll and Bubble Bobble.
Awesome.
And Bubble Bobble, I liked. It was cool. It was fun. My sister liked it more than I did. But I played
same music in a loop over and over again. Yes.
Yes, that same music. That's one tune I've never forgotten, actually. But yeah, no. Then Snake Rattle and Roll. That was the one that I really liked. Really weird game. It was Rare in their early days, like Rareware, like Banjo-Kazooie, all those games. Fun game though, isometric platformer on the NES. That was a good one.
What about the fav game of all time?
Favorite game of all time? It's cliche to answer, but Chrono Trigger. That's the one that I can play over and over and over again.
Right.
I got that on Virtual Console, so it's on my Wii U, and I did buy it for the purpose of playing it on the channel. Never got around to it, but it is there because a guy that when I was first setting up my channel said, "Oh, you got to play that game," and I've just never got to it. I had owned Secret of Mana, and I just don't know where my copy has gone. In box, and I don't know where it is. So it will turn up one day.
You must find that. You must.
It actually Snatcher is my biggest game that I've got in my collection as far as being.
Oh hell yeah! That was awesome.
But Secret of Mana is, I think, up there.
Yeah.
And what are you currently playing at the moment? I've just eyed off your GameCube, and you seem pretty Nintendo biased.
That wall is Nintendo biased. All the Sega stuff is over that way.
Okay.
But
no one put Sega in the corner. Come on.
Yeah, it is in the corner. It's but no. Right now I'm playing. Obviously, the Switch is fun and everything. Mario Odyssey. Everybody's playing that at the moment. But I think what's occupying most of my time is actually, I've just got it right here. Is Little Nemo for the NES. I've been speedrunning this, so this has been basically doing this over and over and over and over and over again. It's like a 25-minute run. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Cool.
Not familiar with that one, so I'll have to double check. Maybe Angry Video Game Nerd's done that one or touched on it.
I don't know.
Not yet.
It's a Capcom platformer.
Okay.
If you're familiar with like Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, that sort of thing, it was that era of NES.
Oh, awesome! It's supposed to be really good. I've heard of it.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I do need to catch up on the NES catalog because it just wasn't a big thing in Australia at the time.
Right.
Nintendo were getting smashed in Australia actually, so I've got myself a Famicom Mini, and I'm going to bombard that with games, and that's going to be how I'm going to experience those titles. So that's going to be cool.
Well, that's a
Coming soon. So
well, if you want a Sega game, I did just pick up a copy of Herzog's Way.
that is an awesome game.
I had never played that game before in my life.
My brother and I used to smash that for hours on end. One of the first real-time strategy games that actually worked on console. So I'm going to get to the first topic. So we've got a bit of an issue lately with three console manufacturers all putting out very similar type of content. What I'm mainly referring to there is the Xbox and the PlayStation platforms being very, very similar. So with the marketplace being super competitive, is there still room for free players? And if so, which one of these will do a Sega and end up being a publisher and bow out of the console manufacturing industry? So who wants to take first shot at this?
So for me, it's kind of looking at all three companies. I think Xbox is the one, obviously Microsoft's the one that obviously has the money, but as a brand is clearly struggling with a lot of things. I think releasing the Xbox One X was clearly just them going, we are literally out of ideas here. We are just going to give you exactly what you've already got, but just slightly better in the hope that it's going to entice you because everyone's eventually going to get a 4K TV. Like, completely pointless idea in every respect if you don't have the actual software to put on it. And that's the only reason why I can't say that Xbox is going to become basically a software publisher, because they have no software. So in my head, they're the ones who probably will bow out first, but probably bow out and do nothing, I would imagine, because they have nothing to really back it up. Like, they may as well just, I'm not hoping for it, because I think that there is room for three. I think there really is. But I think, they need to go back to what they were doing with the 360. They need to remember that they're although they are clearly a massive IT company and they've got other brands and everything, the Xbox brand needs to be just about gaming first, and then all the other nice little flashy bits that, you can play Netflix on it, you can play all the rest of it, that's all nice, but that shouldn't be what the main focus is, which I feel like they've kind of forgotten that. So now they're just going to throw like slightly better hardware at it, and it's just like, so I'd say probably Microsoft, but I don't think that they'd actually hang around if they do.
Again, we don't wish this is just a hypothetical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that I agree with you. It's going to be Microsoft, but I'd say for quite different reasons. Because don't forget, they're absolutely killing the PC market. They own PC gaming, and they always have done. And my personal opinion is, I think consoles, maybe with the exception of Nintendo, are a little bit pointless. It's diminishing returns time, and I think Microsoft is basically going to say, roll it all into one thing. They're going to probably go towards a direction of having like a Steambox thing, but Microsoft-led, perhaps, is a thing they'd do, because they're kind of right. I think they don't care enough about Xbox anyway. So they make tons of money on games on Windows, absolutely like crap loads. I assume they might end up doing something kind of along those kind of lines, because it's kind of where it's going anyway. Like, I don't think there's any appetite for anyone to have a new console every 2 years with slightly better graphics. Like, this generation sucks. It's the smallest leap ever. I don't think they should do another round of it, really. But I think Microsoft kind of know that.
I gotta say that the jump from Xbox 360, the original Xbox to Xbox 360 was a far bigger jump in performance and graphics and sound, everything. And also, on top of all that, introducing online gaming and achievements and everything, it just introduced way more features. And then the jump from that to Xbox One, it really hasn't felt like a big step up. Am I the only one that thinks that? Or
no, I agree. Same with Sony though.
Yeah.
The PS3 to the PS4 is tiny as well,
Right, so we. I was thinking you would have chimed in on that because I know you love Xbox.
Yeah, I was waiting to hear the responses. That's all. Look, I've had the luxury and the experience to play an Xbox One X for a weekend. I got to borrow a mate of mine. He went away for a weekend. He says, "Here you go, enjoy." And I signed in, downloaded some of my more graphically intensive games like Gears 4 and. I installed Assassin's Creed Origins on it, and look, and playing it on a 4K, 4K HDR TV, it's noticeably different. There's a noticeable difference in just the normal standard Xbox, and even the One S has a bit more better clarity on there. But the Xbox One X is like if you have to play it for yourself to really understand, that's the problem. Like it's hard in that kind of generational leap from 4K HDR. If you're looking at that on your phone or on your 1080p monitor or something like that, you're not going to appreciate it. But having finally the experience to play one, my God, like it's. I think personally, it's worth the money just for the visual clarity and the fidelity and everything that you get out of it if you have the setup. But that's the problem. Like
that's the issue. You got to have the 4K TV.
You need the setup. So. Yeah, you have to have that to actually appreciate it. That's where. It becomes a bit of a difficult entry point, but that's the thing. Excuse me, it is going to be a bit of a niche kind of a thing. But what are you going to do? Like when you want to push the envelope, you have to make the jump. You got to do it, and someone has to do it first. And look, I think it's a valid system. I think it's a proof of concept that this can happen and they can do it right. I mean, it's a marvelous piece of kit. Like if you look at it and really appreciate the engineering in the thing, it's amazing the amount of stuff they've been able to put in that small tight little space. So like there's all that to take into appreciation, which I do. Like I love Xbox is my jam. Like I fell in love with it in the original Xbox and have just stuck with it because the titles interest me, the exclusives interest me, and just the support and the Xbox Live. It's my thing. So maybe there's a little bias in there, but if I can look at it from a bit of afar, yeah, I can see why people are like, well, what's the point? But having personal experience with it for a solid weekend, like I didn't go out, I just played everything I could on that game while I had it. And I think I think it has a place, and I think if that's where we're going, I'm all in. But as soon as I can justify buying one, I'll be picking one up for myself, I tell you.
All right, so I think the general consensus is that Microsoft have got the crosshairs on them, but there is room for free manufacturers to be in the marketplace. It's just a matter of Microsoft not goofing up and ending up doing a Sega and ending up becoming publishers, which I'm not even sure if they'll pursue that. If they were, I think they're all in or all out. Yeah, or just Windows. They might just say, you know what, we'll use the Xbox brand for Windows-based games, and I just hope it doesn't go down.
It's really basically the same thing, though.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Sorry.
Oh no, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think it's interesting. Before we knew what the Switch was, because of the poor Wii U sort of turnout, a lot of people were sort of saying, "Oh, Nintendo are going to go that way." Yeah, there we go. I love the Wii U.
Hang on.
A lot of people were saying that they were going
to
go down the software publisher route, but then the Switch came along. So I think it just proves that we really don't know what could happen down the pipeline.
Well, I think that's it with Nintendo, though, is if they do two gimmicky consoles in a row and they both don't work, then they'll probably be out too. Because they know they can make money hand over fist with their IPs. They'll probably just do it on their handhelds.
They're being smart, though. They're being really smart.
The Switch was just a massive hit, as an unexpected one, I think.
Yeah.
But the Switch has made the term handheld almost become a redundant. For example, a lot of these big gaming reporting media sites used to have a category, handheld game of the year. The Switch is a handheld, so how can you make their games compete with stuff that's on a mobile phone? So the definitions are changing all the time. I think we'll move away from that topic, though. I think we're pretty much done and dusted with that. The next topic. My PlayStation shirt here probably leans towards this next one. PlayStation 2, it's now coming up to 20 years. We're getting there of the PlayStation 2 being in existence. Just want to discuss what's your most memorable memories, and what would you be interested in Sony making a mini? What games would you like to see on a mini if they were to do such a thing? So, who wants to?
We're all feeling very old. Like, it's very, very old. Yeah.
Hey, I still remember wanting a Dreamcast.
Right, I'll go. Look, PS2 for me. I never owned one. Right, so my brother, he's a twin, looks nothing like me, thankfully. He had PlayStation stuff that were kind of like down the line. Yeah. Get that out of my face. So I was like downstairs playing Xbox. He was upstairs playing PS2. And like we'd kind of share experiences that way, but I was always frustrated. My most memorable memory of the PS2 was like, where are all my Dragon Ball Z games? I want them on Xbox, and like you could play all like Budokai and Tenkaichi and stuff on PlayStation 2, and we're all like having friends over playing that, and I'm like, man, come on, this sucks. I'd like to play it on Xbox, just to be my own thing. And like God of War came out, and I was like, okay, they've got this cool game now. Oh, what the hell? And like, I kind of lived vicariously through my brother and other friends that had PS2. Like, it's kind of like a separation experience, I guess, if you want to call it that, with the PS2. Like, I don't have an affinity or nostalgia for the console, but yeah, I think every time I think of PS2, I'm like, oh, Dragon Ball Z, and my frustration of never owning one of those games on Xbox.
Anyone here had a PS2? Hands up.
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had one.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I got mine a bit late.
And
I currently have 5. 3 of them don't work though. In my defense.
One for every day of the week.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you can see no, you can't see the box right there. I've got a launch day one. I waited in line for like 8 hours at midnight.
Oh
On
wow!
launch day.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, and by I mean I was in like, I don't know, like 8th grade or something. So my mom was with me all night long, and
Bless her.
yeah, I mean, I was doing chores forever to make up for that one.
You just on that, you are so lucky to have parents that are in on it with you. My parents, my first console, I had to buy myself. I didn't get a console until I was at least 12. So to have parents in on it and helping you with your habit is a big bonus. You got no idea. So what was your most favorite PlayStation 2 game on that system?
The one that I loved is a series that I loved. Nobody else seemed to really like it. Was called Armored Core. It's a From Software series. It's a mech.
Yeah, Armored Core.
I love
simulator.
it. I love Armored Core.
Recognize the title.
Yeah, I only ever played on
I
PS1.
would try to get my friends to play it with me, in versus mode or whatever, and they'd be like, dude, this is way too complicated. No, we're
Was
not
that
doing
compatible with the big battalion controller?
No,
Yeah.
that's not Steel Battalion, but I do have Steel Battalion hanging out over there.
Oh,
Jeez.
If you
Still high as sucked.
Armored Core 4 was fantastic.
Yeah, Armored Core was great. Absolutely awesome.
Every mech I ever made ended up looking like Optimus Prime.
holy heck!
There you go.
Understandable.
Now, isn't there a limited edition? Like, there's different colored versions which are super hard to get.
Yeah, this is one of the launch ones.
Okay, but later they released it in another color, which was a very, very limited run, and they're the ones that everyone's trying to go after.
That's so
Right.
rad.
There's the green button one and the blue button one. That's a blue button one.
And
That'd be
I know,
fun.
and the green button one goes for like twice as much. It's ridiculous.
And the other story that I heard, this is from Larry Bundy Jr.'s channel. And if you're not subscribed to that channel, what are you doing? He did a Fact Finders episode, and it was basically about that controller, and people were going out of their way to buy up and try and scalp them as much as possible, and no one was buying them. So they ended up with a whole warehouse full of these unwanted controllers. So that was one of those times where the scalpers got screwed over, which I think we can all enjoy that moment.
Yes.
I was expecting a bigger reaction for the PlayStation 2. I personally I didn't own a PlayStation 2 on launch. I saw it as just a glorified DVD player. I still I know I'm gonna annoy a few people out there with that comment, but essentially that's what it was. I think the graphics by today's standards are very, I don't know, they're very murky. They don't hold up in 2018.
It was the worst look of the generation, easy.
It's sad to say that my first memory of it really is when the DVD format actually came around at the same time. The PS2 and the DVD format came along pretty much slap bang at the same time. And my first memory of it is buying Jaws on DVD.
Well, I was going to say actually, because I had a PS2 quite early on. I didn't actually ask for it, but it was a Christmas present. So I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So I was like all about the Dreamcast at the time, but I didn't actually own one. But my cousin was like 10 doors down, owned one, so I'm just obsessed with the Dreamcast. And I just was given a PS2. I was like, oh, okay. So, but the big memories I've got of it are 2 games, which is Dynasty Warriors 2, which is like, has everyone played Dynasty Warriors? Are you all familiar?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome game. Yeah. And again, another one to play to death. And Kingdom Hearts as well was the other big one. Really good game. I think the third one's coming out soon.
Kingdom Hearts, man. I remember my brother playing it. Some of the best music I ever heard in the background. It still sticks with me now.
I've been obsessed with the Ratchet and Clank series as well.
Which series?
Ratchet and Clank.
Oh,
I remember being obsessed with that series. All puzzle solving, and it's great.
Very likable characters, and it's a shame that they kind of moved back towards those characters. For a long time, Sony just left them sitting abandoned in a warehouse, not doing anything with those characters. But with the PlayStation 4, there's a lot of nostalgia for those older, like Crash Bandicoot and Ratchet and Clank and Jax.
Yeah, Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, and Daxter, that's the one there.
I was thinking about that. You're talking about technological advancements. Jak and Daxter was crazy at the time.
Yeah.
I think it was the first disc-based game that didn't have load times. Like, it would procedurally load things.
It's very impressive.
So I just remember that being a huge thing with the PS2.
I was personally more interested in the Xbox at the time, and I think what drew me to the Xbox was the fact that it had its own internal hard drive for memory. That was a huge... It didn't get used, I'll be honest with you. It's a shame that I think they had that technology and they didn't know what to do with it at the time. And the other thing that drew me to the Xbox was it also had DVD capabilities, although you had to buy a separate infrared controller to trigger that to work.
I remember that,
which was annoying. And the other thing that I liked about the Xbox over the PlayStation 2 at the time, it just looked better. It just had a much better clarity to the games. If you got the same game on Xbox and compared it to the PlayStation 2 version, the Xbox version always won over.
It was always better.
But we can't argue with the sales figures. PlayStation 2 is the biggest selling console of all time. And I can't help but think that was mostly due to the fact that it came with DVD.
Of course.
And it was also backwards compatible, and tons of people had PlayStations because of Final Fantasy VII.
That helped.
Yeah.
I think that if the Dreamcast had DVD, we would still be seeing Sega consoles potentially today.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The next one.
I don't know. I've never seen a Dreamcast in my life.
You've never seen one?
Oh, mate.
Never seen one. They did not sell here at all.
Wow.
Nobody cared. That's part of the reason.
They're a thing of beauty.
I think also because you guys lost my words there. I think you're onto something with the DVD thing. I know PlayStation 2 was my first DVD player. I never had one, and I already had a PlayStation. But then I found out I could play my old games on the new system and play DVDs with it.
Yeah,
I was sold.
Yeah, from that point of view, it was a
like
no-brainer.
$200 when I bought it in 2000, so the price point was pretty good too.
So my last topic. Oh my god, I can't believe we've got up to the last one already.
I have a cat now.
So just recently, is it the World Health Organization, WHO, have decided that they're classing gaming as a disorder, as a mental issue. So, do we agree? And if that is a fact that it is a mental issue, what's the cure? So who wants to kick off?
You know, it's so weird. I read an article. Oh, sorry, Ben. Go on, you first.
I was going to say, I think we were chatting earlier. I looked up an article relating to this, and I think they did actually state that it's gaming addiction to be recognised as a mental health disorder, rather than just playing games. So they're talking about people who play games to such an extent whereby they would not sort of feed themselves or not worry about their finances, going to work.
That's understandable.
Yes, I think to that point, like any addiction, it probably is a disorder of some kind. It does actually affect your day-to-day life and your well-being.
Well, you hear about people dying. Like they're playing a game and they just drop dead because they've forgotten about themselves.
Do you ever watch that documentary, Second Skin? You ever see that? It was a documentary about people playing Second Life and like World of Warcraft and such, but to such an extent they had the choice between eating that month or paying their electricity bill and an internet bill to carry on playing World of Warcraft. It's crazy.
Yeah,
well, that's definitely a problem. About, I think it's a mother who allowed her baby to starve to death through playing games and social media, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So when you get to that point, as an addiction, that probably is a disorder of some kind.
Definitely.
But just playing games generally, no.
See, I think it's one of them, isn't it? It's like you say, everything in moderation. Because I know that there's actually been other studies that have said people who are into gaming who are suffering from like depression and things, it can actually really help. You know, 'cause it just kind of keeps you occupied and you kind of feel like you're not on your own, you're doing something. So it can really help. Obviously, it's like with anything, like if you go way too far left field, all right, just let's try and have a nice middle ground. But it's quite funny actually. You talk about people who used to play like World of Warcraft and stuff to a ridiculous extent. One of my friends, Christian, he's going to watch this. And there was kind of a running joke within our social group that we kind of lost him for 6 months. He got obsessed with World of Warcraft, basically wouldn't leave his house. So we almost like staged interventions regularly where we was like.
Well, Happy Console Gamer from Canada, he had an episode based on Final Fantasy online for the PlayStation 2, and that thing you had to buy a separate hard drive just for this one game. I think it was the only game that took advantage of the hard drive. I might be wrong, or the only one in the West. And he has very, very dark memories about that game because, like you were saying, he was online, he had his guild, he had his thing on there, and he was just about leveling up his character and looting and all the rest of it. And he just became obsessed with that game and nothing else in life. And he said it was pathetic. At one stage, he's got the cigarettes next to him, he's got the food there, which is just binge eat and then play again, like we're all familiar. We all have done that at one stage,
of course.
The next stage is about to start. Oh, quick. And he said life just became very miserable. His friends just dropped off the radar. It is an issue. I wouldn't dare say that it's not something that can be looked at and sneezed at, that it does exist. I just think I misread that article that they were having their crosshairs on my hobby, that's all.
Well, you can think it's like in a positive light as well. Like, I don't know if you guys subscribe to a channel called NoClip, but they did a documentary on Grand Theft Auto 5, and there's a particular group that get together at least once or twice a year. Like they all fly in to meet at this one person's house, and they do heists and stuff all throughout the year. And that's like they all join in there either 3 times a week or something online just to hang out with each other. And they're all across America. Some people that live on their own, like they don't know anyone, and they just come across this group online, and they eventually get befriended and included in the group. And it's a massive thing, man. Like they all hire out like a mansion once a year, and they all converge with their families and all their kids, and they all stay in touch throughout the year just through Grand Theft Auto and whatever other games like Destiny or something. So like, there's the flip side of this problem of gaming, where you have this kind of experience where you might get to know someone online. You talk to them for a couple of years online, then you eventually meet them, and you become like lifelong friends that way. Like I've got a mate who's going back to the UK soon, and he's lived in Australia for 5 years or 7 years, and we met online, and like he's now one of my closest mates like ever. I talk to him every day, and I'm really bummed that he's going back to the UK. So there's a lot of negative stuff in gaming, but I think that's paramount to more likely just ingrained mental illness with that individual as a whole, not necessarily to blame the actual habit, as opposed to the other side where you have a lot of positivity that can come out of the pastime. So yeah, I mean, that article, I did read a few of them, and unfortunately a lot of these articles and media outlets are still run by the kind of the older generation that don't quite understand it, so they like to kind of skew the perspective.
Well,
that's the thing that's crazy.
Sorry.
Like, yeah, this is the thing that people forget as well when these things come up to the news. Like, similar conversations are being had in the 70s when Atari came out. And it's like, my kid doesn't go outside anymore. He just sits in my house and plays Atari all day. And it's not a case of it's the Atari's fault. It's the case of this kid has some predisposition to being, one, heavily introverted, and also they might have some social problems anyway. Obviously, the Atari doesn't help, but what are you going to do? You're going to ban video games? I think it's just a case of it's an easy scapegoat, I think,
Parenting comes into it a little bit. It has to, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yep. Definitely. I've seen some I've seen some terrible parents over the years, and they let their kids just run amok. And I've got one really classic story where these kids down the road, they got an Amstrad CPC, was it called?
Amstrad CPC.
Yeah, that's the one. They got one of them each, and
I was one of the 4 people in the world who actually got one of those.
I was jealous as heck. I didn't know much about that system, but it was a computer. I didn't care, and I didn't have a computer at that time. And the kid, he smashed both his and his sisters in tantrums, because that was a family that was off the rails. Anyway, I was going to also mention that. I don't think gaming, there are different aspects to gaming as far as health issues and mental health and whatnot. I don't think it's gaming's fault. I think that gaming is just the tool that gets used to, outlet it or project their problems. I don't think gaming's an issue, though, because if you look at the world's biggest gaming collector, which is The Last Gamer. He's actually a guy from Melbourne, Joel. If this gaming was a disease, he'd be the world's biggest lunatic. And he's actually, he does have a compulsive disorder, I think, where he sets everything up in certain orders. I've watched him setting up his room, and if a certain game is not in place, he'll change it while recording, which is kind of funny to watch. But he seems like a pretty switched on, down-to-earth guy, and for a guy that has this massive Guinness Book record endorsed collection, you'd think he would be a little bit, but he's actually very switched on. He built the house that the collection is in himself, so he's got a lot going on in that guy's life. If you haven't watched that channel, you really should get a look at The Last Gamer.
Yeah, I'd second that. He's lived a very interesting life. If you watch his videos, it's like, holy crap, man! He's done it all as far as gaming is concerned. Like throughout the whole history, it's very, very interesting stuff on that channel. And I'll watch all these.
He was sued by Nintendo at one stage.
yeah, poor guy.
Why was he sued?
For grey importing. So he was importing games that weren't being officially released by Mattel, because Mattel was such a dud company when it came to distributing Super Nintendo. Our Super Nintendos in Australia have Mattel logos on them. They were the distributors of the Super Nintendo products at the time. And thanks to Mattel, I would have to import Street Fighter 2s. Every version that I've got have been from imported overseas. And I was paying up to $160 back then for each one of my Super Street Fighter, or Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Hyper Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 to babies, Street Fighter 2 Mania. Like, they're just re-releasing the same game over and over again. And here I was shelling out, give me. But it was all thanks to Mattel.
It was like the second biggest game on Nintendo, wasn't it? On the Super Nintendo, after Mario was pretty much. It was one, wasn't it?
It was huge. But back to the point, he got he was sued, but he won that case where he was grey importing games that weren't being officially released here, which there was a lot of companies doing it at the time because gamers were very annoyed that they couldn't get the games that they were seeing advertised in meme machines and EGM at the time. Anyone else want to chime in with that last topic? Anything else to say?
I've got one little adage on that. We grew up, someone mentioned during our conversation that we grew up with our parents saying, get out of the house like you're playing games too much. But now those same parents are older and they've been introduced to Netflix, and now they sit there and binge those shows for hours and hours and hours and on end. And like, it's not just the older generation either, like it's us young generation as well that are also binge watching these shows, and that they're formulated and created that way. They're made to be binged, but and you're right, gaming is still shoehorned into this problem where it's a society problem and it's a mental illness problem because you're not doing anything for hours on end, but you are, like, your mind is constantly active and you're creating and learning, and depending on the games you're playing, of course, and experiencing new things. But those same people that are complaining and writing these articles and features and stuff, they'll go home that evening and they'll binge like 4 episodes of the next, whatever, Game of Thrones or Black Mirror or something
Stranger
like that.
Things. That's an awesome
Stranger Things, and it's a societal thing now. Like, we're all guilty of it. I don't understand and I don't agree why gaming is a shoehorn still today, where Netflix is a bigger problem than gaming is now, I feel.
Well,
so I think it's just the understanding thing again. Somebody mentioned it before. I'm sorry, I can't remember who, but I think that's what it is. It's just that the people who try to make these decisions and everything, they just don't understand what gaming is. Like, if I tried to explain why I game to my grandma, I couldn't. She'd never get it. You know what I mean? Like, it just wouldn't have happened.
Well, we had the same thing when, in the 90s in the UK, certainly when Mortal Kombat was released, there was a massive, massive upset about that. Video games were just vilified. They were just this underground sort of thing that all these deviants did, and it wasn't a mainstream thing at all. When Mortal Kombat came about, people were trying to ban it and all that kinds of things. So I think we're having the same sort of thing happening again, maybe.
I think it's just society in general. Like, if there's anything which can be just whinged about a little bit, like, someone will happily oblige and just kind of, go rogue. Even Jet Set Radio, even that, like, there was a place in America that tried to ban Jet Set Radio because apparently it was going to encourage graffiti. It's like, and also that happened before the game came out, so they hadn't even played it. They had no idea what the context was. But all these young kids are going to play this game and then just someone starts spray painting my dog. Just not how it works. It's not how it works.
Yeah, Slopes Game Room actually just did a documentary on that. It was really, really good.
Slopes Game Room, yeah, I watched that documentary, and he does such a cool job. One day I would love to get to that level of editing myself, but I've watched those series and they're pretty cool. But I was gonna mention back on the Mortal Kombat. Just moments ago on Twitter, someone was talking about Mortal Kombat and how big it was in the arcades, and they were asking what was your favourite Mortal Kombat moment. For me, Mortal Kombat 1, the hype behind that game was just stupendous. It was I remember going down the time zone in George Street here in Sydney and seeing rows of guys 5 deep around one guy because he knew how to do fatalities for Sub-Zero and rip necks out and stuff like that. And there was a huge cheer every time someone pulled off a fatality and everyone would clap. And when was the last time you saw something like that in a game? Like, it's just an era. Yeah. We knew at the time we were seeing something special. Yes, head's been ripped off is very special. But we knew we were seeing something very special. And at the same time, there was a row of Street Fighter 2 machines. Right, like the whole wall was littered, like 10 machines in a row of nothing but the same game. I remember looking at it thinking, what's going on, man? This is ridiculous. All right, well, that's an awkward silence. I wasn't expecting that.
I miss those days. Like, I thought someone would interject in there, but yeah, I miss those days, man. Like, and you're right, something special about that time period. It's like another world now. It's like when you go watch black and white films. It feels like it's from somewhere else. Like, some ethereal magical place. Like, I don't think we'll ever have that again. I mean, yeah, we've got this esports stuff happening, and arenas being sold out for games and stuff like that. But it's just, that's a whole nother level. But yeah, I mean, those little moments where before the internet, before anything like that, where you'd be like, oh, how did you do that? Or how did you figure that out? Oh, I read it in a magazine. Like, oh, and you never saw it unless you knew a friend that knew how to do it.
I called the Sega hotline.
Oh yeah.
Well, I was actually talking to somebody on Twitter about that today. When we were kids, like Mortal Kombat would be out, and nobody had the internet. So like, if you were like the guy that had like the Nintendo Power or like the EG or whatever the magazine is, they told you how to do that stuff, dude. You were the popular kid on the playground that day.
Yeah.
You could tell everybody else how to do all the fatalities and whatever.
It was like currency. It was currency on the playground. Yeah, some cheats.
Unfortunately, the currency in my era, because no one was big in the gaming in my generation. If you had the stash of Playboys or something, that was the currency.
There was always a kid at school who said he had the cheat code book with the cheat in to make Lara Croft take her clothes off in Tomb Raider.
Yes.
And that guy, he was like, he can ask for anything. He's like, I might give you the cheat. Bring me your lunch. I'll have that.
And he got lunch that day, I bet.
He got lunch every day. Every single day.
And he knew it because his uncle worked at Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. His uncle's friend's dog.
Yeah.
The hustle was real.
All right. Well, wow, I can't believe we have gone so far into this podcast. I think it's time to wrap things up. Ash, what's your next video? What have you got coming up next on 891? Is it 891 the numbers, or do I have to write out the words 891?
It can be whatever you want it to be. For you, Brian.
As long as you're talking about it. Okay.
As long as you use numbers. So I'm working on some long form videos. I just got an Amiga recently. That's
500?
getting fixed at the moment. Sorry?
500 Amiga?
500, yeah. And I got, hang on. Whoa. This is one of 5 boxes for the floppy disks. So,
now, for kids at home, floppy disks, no, we won't go into
so I'm doing a whole thing on Amiga games. I'm
floppy disks, by the pronounce disks. Floppy disks everywhere.
Floppy disks. I'm also playing a load of N64 games at the moment, so I bought an N64 as well. I always hated the N64 with a passion, and I'm trying to change my own mind about it and think, is it actually rubbish?
I can totally relate.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it, haven't we? But yes, I bought an N64 and I'm playing a load of games and trying to sort of do a system review thing, but from the angle of someone who hates it. He doesn't want to necessarily hate it. So that's probably...
No, that's an interesting series.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Could be a thing.
Grumpy Retro Gamers, what about yourself? I watched your video, your channel update, and a big special thank you to Chris to get a compliment from that guy, because I know his standards are weirdly all over the place, but they're high. So to get a special mention from him, I really did like hearing that. But what's your next video do you think you got coming up on the channel?
Next video, we're hoping for it to be another music video. Not a review, not a rap review as such, but we're hoping for it to be another music video relating to retro gaming. Don't really want to give much away, but we're hoping that to be the next one.
Are we going to hear you sing?
Possibly. Possibly. I might actually be in it this time.
Okay, yeah, because that's right, because it was just Chris before.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that should be the next video.
Okay. And Uncle Chunt, what have you got coming up on your continuing struggles of Chunt?
Hey man, every day's a struggle.
#TruntChamps.
It'll probably end up. I've got a few parcels coming, and I'm probably going to do like a game of pickups. I've got 3 or 4 parcels just sitting here on my table, and I haven't opened yet, so I don't know what they are. So I want to wait until I've got a handful, and I'll just do a game of pickups video. And I've got 2 on my computer at the moment. I've edited, ready to upload, but I like to kind of be a bit more spontaneous. I don't like to kind of, I know what they are, but I don't want to be like, next is that. Like it's kind of like, I'll upload what I feel like. Like I have a back catalogue of at least 3 or 4 videos every time. The last week I've just been recording stuff. So if I'm like, well, I want to put that up, I'll just put it up. so I don't really know what my next one I'll be uploading is. But if I had to tell you, it's going to be the one with game pickups with a couple of these. There's a couple just sitting here, so we'll see.
All right, and Carbon Knights Gaming.
Oh, we got all kinds of stuff coming up. You know us.
6 videos a week, boys and girls.
Yeah, and I edit all of them right now.
And you finished or wrapped up your Red Dead Redemption series.
Red Dead and Octotorch, and we're gonna go back. We missed those two. We missed those 2 missions. I'm gonna go back. I'm playing through it again just because I really like the game. And when you play with Torch, you don't see it the way you normally see a game. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna do those missions, and we'll add those in whenever I get them done. But that's probably not gonna be soon. And then we just started X-Men Legends on the PS2 and TMNT on the PS2, and then I still have Stardew Valley, and Hitman is about to end up. And I wasn't gonna mention this one for after Hitman sometime. I'm not sure exactly when. But Chunt actually mentioned it, and it's so out of the blue. I can't believe he mentioned it. We actually played, Dong vs. Torch and myself got together, and we played Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi.
Yes.
I've never touched that game before. Dong was like, oh, let's play that. And so we threw it on, and I can't believe he mentioned it. That's so funny.
Tenkaichi 2 and 3 are awesome, man.
Well, this is just the original.
Yeah. Oh man, that's not at all. That game Tenkaichi 1 is the reason why we're getting Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2 still in that gameplay style. Like, it's rough in the first one, but by the third one, they kind of really nailed it, and then they just continued on. It's really, really good.
Yeah, it was different for sure. I really enjoyed it, though. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
And Maz Gaming, I saw your last video. I'm drawing a blank here, but what have you got coming up on Maz Gaming?
So I'm similar to Trump, when he said he's got so many kind of things on the go all at once. So kind of spinning plates at the moment. I've got probably 5 or 6 different things that are kind of happening-ish, just trying to get times right for things. But I just picked up. I'm not sure whether anyone's actually played this, but has anyone ever played The Immortal on the Mega Drive?
I'm only laughing because that was a game that when we were in the Sega hotline, everyone stopped answering phones and went to the TV. We had a little 30-centimeter TV, and just to watch I guess you could call them fatalities, that wasn't even a term at the time, and just seeing bodies split in half and whatever, we were just cracking up laughing, and we just couldn't get enough of that game. So, yeah, great memories of The Immortal.
Yeah, it's a game that I remember as a kid. I got it, and it's one of the first games where I literally, you can die within about 30 seconds, it's just over. It's like, what is this? So I'm determined to try it again as an adult, and just I was just rubbish as a kid, or not. And we've also got a horror gaming special as well coming up shortly, so that'll be quite interesting too.
And last off, the Bitvault. What have you got coming up?
I got just a couple of things. It's one thing I'm trying new for the new year. I figured new year, do a new type of video. I've been sitting on a while for I've been sitting on a kind of game theory type of video for a while that I've kind of been working on the side a little bit, but just kind of here and there, and I decided to finally go ahead and do it. It's a theory about how Kirby is actually the bad guy of the whole series.
I think you tweeted something about that, didn't you?
Yes, I probably tweeted about it like 6 months ago, because I go to it and I'm like, oh, this is really good, and then I work on it for like 2 hours, I'm like, oh, this sucks, there's so much other better stuff out there. And then I've kind of chipped away at it at this point, to where I feel like it's actually pretty strong. So that's the one I'm really excited about. So that should actually be here in the next couple of days, actually. And then the other one, I'm doing a custom on a Super Nintendo right now. So actually, I've got the motherboard pulled out right here.
Oh wow, it's naked.
But,
get some clothes on that Super Nintendo.
Paint job. So doing a kind of a pseudo how-to, just kind of saying, all right, look, this is the process I go to. This is the stuff not to do. This is the stuff I learned doing an NES that I did a few months ago. That sort of thing. So those are the 2 big ones. Pick up videos and stuff too. But
okay. Well, for Synth Spacies, my next video is going to be Kid Chameleon. I'm finally going to get a push on the Mega Drive series. I'm only halfway through it. It's taking ages. And I did go into a bit of a slump with videos over the December break because my parents were down, and a lot of family stuff going on at the time, so it's always hard to get time to film when that's all going on. But with January, I should get that out of the way. I'll get finally a start on the Gaming Since Spacey series. I've been wanting to do that for ages. 1978, a look at 1978 games. That'll be a very quick video, I think. So that's going to be coming up on my channel. But other than that, I just want to thank every one of you guys. That was a rather good little discussion, and again, nothing too deep and meaningful, although we did kind of edge on that with the health issues. I think that was the most serious the podcast has ever gotten. I'll try not to let that ever happen again.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. So
intelligent conversation's healthy, man.
Yeah, well,
I think games are the devil.
Got to try something for the first time. So anyway, yeah, so if you haven't already done so, subscribe to all these beautiful people here, and don't forget to leave comments. And also throughout the video there will be music playing. If you recognize any of those tracks, leave a comment as to what you think the tracks are, and I'll see if you're right or wrong. Anyway, my name has been Brian, and I've been gaming since Spaceys. Thanks, guys.
Since Spaceys.